please stand and join us in the gathering.
Please join me in the call to worship. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you.
See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you.
Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn.
Lift up your eyes and look about you. All assembled and come from afar, and your daughters are carried on the arm.
Then you will look and be radiant. Your heart will throb and swell with joy. The wealth on the seas will be brought to you. To you the riches of all nations will come.
Herds of camels will cover your land, young camels of Midian and Ephah, and all from Sheba will come, bearing gold and incense, and proclaiming the praise of the Lord.
Levántate y resplandece, que tu luz ha llegado. La gloria del Señor brilla sobre ti.
Mira las tinieblas cubren la tierra, y una densa oscuridad se extiende sobre tus huesos. Pero la hora del Señor brillará sobre ti se manifestará su gloria.
Las naciones serán guiadas por tu luz, y los reyes por tu amanecer esplendoroso.
Alza los ojos, mira a tu alrededor, todos se reúnen en ti. Tus hijos llegan desde lejos, a tus hijas las traen atrás.
Verás esto y te pondrás radiante de alegría. Vibrará tu corazón y se henchirá de gozo, porque tú te traerán los tesoros del mar y te llegarán las riquezas de las naciones. Te llenarás con caravanas de camellos, con medallas mediante guerra. Vendrán todos los de Seba, cargando oro e incienso y proclamando las alabanzas del Señor.
Good morning, everyone. This is the time when children and myself hang out together and think about some things. So if you're under the age of, I don't know, let's randomly throw out 27, and you're feeling young, how's everyone doing today? Tired? Okay, well, that's fair. All right, well, today is a special Sunday in church. It's called Epiphany Sunday, all right? And Epiphany Sunday is a special Sunday because it's when we remember something really cool, okay? So, I'm gonna need my 2 assistants to come over. So I have 2 assistants. I've already picked them out, okay? And I have to have Jude because he already knows the answers. I'm not Latina, and so she said she would agree to do it, all right? So the rest of you guys are gonna be right up here. But I want you to do something for me, and I don't want you to move this way or that way, okay? So we gotta stay in the center, okay? Perfect, all right? Excellent, great. All right, Jude, you just stand right here. Okay. Valentina, right there, okay? All right, you guys doing good over here? All right, good. All right, hold on 1 second. The word epiphany means, thank you. It means that you can know something that maybe you didn't know before. It's like when you say, aha, right? So, now, what we're gonna do is practice having some aha moments this morning, all right? All right, so you guys are gonna hold this. Hold that. Hold that. All right, hold it up high. All right, not that high. Right there. Okay. All right. All right. Now, you others down there, I'm gonna start holding some stuff up. Okay. Hello. All right. Now, what I need you guys to do, you gotta hold this up. You gotta be tight. Jude, you watching? You gotta hold it tight. All right. Perfect. Okay. Now, what I need you guys to do is I need as soon as you know what it is that is behind this towel, I want you to yell it out. All right? All right? Okay. All right. So, all right, you ready? You ready for this? You gotta practice. No, you gotta hold it just like that. All right. Wait. Hold on. Are you ready? Are you watching? Is everybody watching? Okay. Excellent. You knew what that one was. Way to go. Okay. You ready? You coming? All right. Hold this towel. You're not holding it for me. All right. There you go. Whoa. All right. All right, you ready? Here it comes. What is it? Ready? Aha! There we go. We have a winner. Good job. Excellent. All right, here comes the next one. You ready? You ready for this? All right, you're not ready. Are you ready? Ooh, there's a spoon guy right there. Good job. Good work. All right, we got one more thing. Jude, you're really falling down a lot. All right, ready? You ready? Okay, hold up. You got it. Shirt. All right, that was kind of a special shirt too. It was a Texans shirt. They're a football team. Okay. All right. Excellent work. Okay. Thank you guys. So, did you guys see? All right, you go sit back down, please. Before we fall. All right. Excellent work. So, an epiphany is when you realize something. Okay, you realize it for the first time. So as you saw those things coming up, you didn't know what they were, and then as soon as you did, you yelled it out, and you knew what it was, right? All right, it's kind of an epiphany moment. Yeah, in Matthew, in the Bible, it talks about when Jesus was born. All right, we had Christmas time, and now we're remembering right after Jesus was born, when people were realizing who Jesus was. It's a moment where they go, aha, Jesus is extra special. So there were some times in the Bible where we have 3 people come and see Jesus. They're called them wise men or kings sometimes. And they came and they realized that Jesus was the Son of God, and they gave him gifts. And so we remember that because that was the first time in the Bible that's recorded that people that were not Jews came and worshiped Jesus, okay? There's also times when some shepherds came and realized who Jesus was, and angels realized who Jesus was. And then another time where we celebrate Epiphany from the Bible standpoint is when Jesus was baptized, because a dove comes down from heaven and said, and a voice says, "This is my son with whom I am well pleased." And so those are all things that we remember about Jesus being the Son of God and being special. And so this Epiphany Sunday is we're celebrating that. Jesus, the baby born in a barn or a manger, is the Son of God. So let's remember that today. Thank you guys for helping me out. And let's pray. Dear God, thank you for giving us Jesus, and thank you before, how wonderful it is to remember that Jesus is God's Son who came to earth for us, to show us how to love and to live. So help us to do that well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Our first hymn this morning is in Spanish Blue Hymnario 107, and it's de Entre Todas las Ciudades.
Buenos días, en serios. Please join me in the prayer of today in Spanish. Dios eterno, el resplandor de las almas fieles, que creaba las naciones a tu luz y reyes al resplandor de tu presencia. Llena el mundo con tu gloria y muéstrate a todas las naciones a través de aquel que es la verdadera luz y la brillante estrella matutina. Jesucristo, tu Hijo, nuestro Señor, que vive y reina contigo en la unidad del Espíritu Santo, un solo Dios, ahora y para siempre. Amén. Call to confession. God judges the nations with righteousness and answers the poor with justice. Trusting in God's grace, let us confess our sins. Please join me in unison as we pray the prayer of confession. God of glory, you sent Jesus among us as the light of the world, to reveal your love for all people. We confess our sin and pride hide the brightness of your light. We turn away from the poor. We ignore cries for justice. We do not strive for peace. In your mercy, cleanse us of our sin, and pour out the gifts of your Spirit, that forgiven and renewed, we may show forth your glory, shining in the face of Jesus Christ. Amen. You are invited to take a moment to pray silently.
oigan las buenas nuevas. Jesús es la luz del mundo. Y cuando andamos en la luz de Dios, su luz radiante siempre brillará en la oscuridad de nuestras vidas. Dear brothers and sisters, hear the good news of our Lord Jesus Christ. Jesus is the light of the world, and when we are truly walking with Jesus, we cannot escape his light. It will shine into the darkness of our lives. Technical difficulties. Know through our faith in Jesus, we are cleansed and we are forgiven, and be at peace. And now with peace in our hearts, let us greet one another with the light of Christ.
Santo dador de toda luz, levanta nuestros corazones y mentes a Cristo, la estrella matutina que nunca se desvanece. A la luz de su Espíritu Santo nos revela su palabra salvadora y nos lleva a ofrecerle nuestras vidas en servicio y en amor a través de Jesucristo nuestro Señor. Amén. Please stand for the reading of the Gospel. La lectura viene de Mateo 2, capítulo del 1 al 12. Después de que Jesús nació en Belén de Judea, en tiempo del rey de Herodes, llegaron a Jerusalén unos sabios procedentes del oriente. ¿Dónde está el que ha nacido rey de los judíos?, preguntaron. Vimos levantarse su estrella y hemos venido a adorarlo. Cuando lo oyó el rey Herodes, se turbó, y toda Jerusalén con él. Así que convocó de entre el pueblo a todos los jefes de los sacerdotes y maestros de la ley y les preguntó dónde había de nacer el Cristo. En Belén de Judea, le respondieron, porque esto es lo que ha escrito el profeta. Pero tú, Belén, en la tierra de Judá, de ninguna manera eres la menor entre los principales de Judá, porque de ti saldrá un príncipe, que será el pastor de mi pueblo Israel. Luego Herodes llamó en secreto a los sabios y se enteró por ellos el tiempo exacto en que había aparecido la estrella. Los envió a Belén y les dijo, vayan e infórmense bien de ese niño. Tan pronto como lo encuentren, avísenme para que yo también vaya y lo adore. Después de oír al rey, siguieron su camino y sucedió que la estrella había visto levantarse, iba delante de ellos hasta que se detuvo sobre el lugar donde estaba el niño. Al ver la estrella se llenaron de alegría. Cuando llegaron a la casa vieron al niño con María y su madre y postrándose lo adoraron. Abrieron sus cofres y le presentaron como regalos oro, incienso y mirra. Entonces, advertidos en sueños de que no volverían a Herodes, regresaron a su tierra por otro camino. Esta es palabra de Dios.
Listen to God's word from the same narrative in English. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all of Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all of the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem of Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star had seen where it rose, went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. The word of the Lord. Please be seated. So I changed the sermon title yesterday, let's just say I had an epiphany, to Good Old-Fashioned Holiday Magic. Do you believe in magic? Good, so do I. Epiphany is an opportune occasion
to embrace the magic of the faith. Not, of course, magic in the sense of trickery or sleight of hand, used artfully to deceive and delight a crowd. The magic I refer to is grounded in sacred reality, and it is the place in which our deepest longings and expectations are not tricked or deceived, but surprised by the epiphany of encountering God in the world. We sometimes hear the phrase, "the magic is gone." The implication is that something that once caused us to marvel loses its luster. That can even sometimes be true for our faith. However, we know that often in life, missing magic is a result of holding on to something a little too long. But deeper divine realities are in and of themselves eternally marvelous. God's vastness, God's goodness, God's love will never cease to amaze. But to continue to experience the magic, we must remain on the journey. We can't simply set up at a comfortable stopping point thinking the magic will persist on its own. It's like that classic notion of the journey is the arrival. We're to follow where that proverbial star leads, atop peaks, through valleys, and everywhere else in between. This morning we consider a group of spiritual trekkers going out of their way to find the magic. But before we hop on any camels to travel 1,200 miles to follow yonder star, let us pray. God of wonder, we journey with you in search of thy perfect light. Prepare our minds and our hearts for the rigors of the journey and the astonishment along the way. And now may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. It is fair to say that the three kings keep capturing the church's attention. And there are a host of reasons. But before delving into epiphanic appeal, let's review some of the basics. So in spite of the title of our closing hymn today, they are not really kings and there's not really three of them. They are magi, which comes from the Greek word magoi, which can mean magic. In this case, the magi are part of a learned and priestly class, specifically part of a Zoroaster tradition that actually forbade sorcery. So no Harry Potter magic in these guys. Though they were known as astrologers, they were good at interpreting the stars and dreams. And as for the number, ancient Christian art disagrees as they're portrayed in different numbers, these magi. In the Orient, tradition held that there were 12. The Epiphany does, after all, fall on the 12th day of Christmas. We may conclude that the number 3 comes from the number of the gifts that were named in the passage that Carla and I read. The supposed three, were given names in the 6th century. Balthazar, Melchior, and Caspar were made famous by mosaics commissioned by Emperor Justinian. The 3 gifts of these foreign magi we know are gold, frankincense, and myrrh. If the hymn holds true, the gold is a gift worthy of a king. The frankincense is a type of incense used in worship, indicating that that king merited praise. And myrrh, a bitter perfume, but sometimes that can also be ingested as a drink, recalls Jesus' death as it was offered to him at the time of his passing. One of the many uses of myrrh was anointing at the time of that. Gift giving in that context was a tradition upheld in the Orient. Where did these long-distance traveling gift-bearing magi come from? Matthew suggests only that they came from the east. Could be Persia, could be Babylon or Syria. I mentioned earlier that there seems to be continued intrigue for the Magi. Besides tradition assigning meaning to them over the centuries, traditions have sprung up at various times and places to help us remember and celebrate that narrative. To this day, Spain holds parades for families, and Christmas gifts are given. In Prague, there is also a parade followed by an icy swim in the nearby river. There's also Epiphany swims in Bulgaria, Greece, and Russia. In Mexico, roscas de reyes, king's cakes, are baked with fruit pieces that are supposed to represent the jewels that the kings would be wearing. And a baby figurine of Jesus is baked hidden in the cake so he would be hidden from Herod. Thanks to the hospitality committee, we will have a rosca de reyes after church. However, I must warn you, rumor has it that if you find a baby in your cake, you are pregnant. That magically came true for this morning's lay leader, approximately 12 epiphanies ago. Her cake during fellowship hour contained a baby figurine, and she found out days later she was pregnant with Carlos. Are you having cake today, honey? So these are some of the traditions, but this is the story. The light of the star guided those wise men or kings to the manger of an animal stable, which beheld the light of the world. We cannot overemphasize the dramatic power of God presenting the light of truth in the form of a newborn miracle of a human baby, one of the weakest, most vulnerable creatures in the universe. Or as Philip Yancey puts it, yet as I read the birth stories about Jesus, I cannot help but conclude that though the world may be tilted toward the rich and powerful, God is tilted toward the underdog. The wise men leave home, they cross national borders, they visit dignitaries, they follow signs to find what they are looking for. They do what is necessary to proceed on their journey toward finding the Christ child. We cannot overlook the international flavor of the narrative, which may in part lead to this widespread international observance of the holiday. In an effort to emphasize the diverse and international flavor of the story, a recent cartoon drawing has been circulating on the internet. It depicts an open-air stable with trees on both sides. There are no people, and the manger is empty. The only living beings are a cow, a sheep, and a donkey. And the caption reads, "A nativity scene without Jews, Arabs, Africans, or refugees." There is magic in the story. For me, it is not even so much the star or the mystical dream that keeps the Magi from returning through Jerusalem in order to avoid Herod. The magic is found in the simple aspects. And when you go and see a magician perform, part of what makes their magic compelling is the unexpected result. To think that the God of the universe would send the king or the Messiah in the form of a poor baby born in a poor, insignificant town to parents that would not normally be history makers, and that baby would be born in a stable for animals, and then that educated, well-fed international priests would travel from afar to kneel down before him, guided by a star. God's love comes to us not via world glory, but through the most basic, humble realities. Consider this reflection from the late author Frederick Buechner. The gifts that 3 wise men, or kings or magi, brought to the manger in Bethlehem cost them plenty. It seems hardly appropriate to the occasion. Maybe they were all they could think of for a child who had everything. In any case, they sat down on the straw, the gold, the frankincense, the myrrh. They worshipped briefly and then returned to the east where they had come from. It gives you pause to consider how, for all of their great wisdom, they overlooked the one gift that the child would have been genuinely pleased to have someday, and that was the gift of themselves and their love. The foolishness of the wise is perhaps nowhere better illustrated than by the way the three magi went to Herod, the great king of the Jews, to find out the whereabouts of the holy child, who had just been born king of the Jews, to supplant him. It did not even strike them as suspicious when Herod asked them to be sure to let them know when they found him, so he could hurry on down to pay his respects. Luckily for the holy child, after the three magi had followed their star to the manger and left him their presents, they were tipped off in a dream to avoid Herod, like the plague, on their way home. Herod was fit to be tied when he realized he'd been had and ordered the murder of every male child 2 years old and under in his district. For all his enormous power, he knew there was somebody in diapers more powerful still. The wisdom of the foolish is perhaps nowhere better illustrated. The story may cause us to consider, what is it we are doing in our lives to attend with our hearts and minds to the journey of faith? Are we willingly leaving behind aspects of our lives that encumber us in living faithfully? Are we crossing borders of our comfort zones to proceed in the direction that God is leading us? Are we consulting others to help guide us along the way? Or do we simply keep to ourselves? Are we following the signs that are laid before us? Pope Francis, in an Epiphany sermon from a couple of years ago, suggested if you want to find Jesus, we have to overcome our fear of taking risks, our self-satisfaction, and our indolent refusal to ask anything more of life. We need to take risks simply to meet a child. Those risks are immensely worth the effort, since in finding that child, in discovering his tenderness and love, we rediscover ourselves. Whether our faith journeys carry us to faraway places or always keep us close to home, we are all on journeys. Though we meet traveling companions along the way, we are each traveling our own individual journey. In the words of poet Walt Whitman, not I, not anyone else, can travel the road for you. You must travel it yourself. In all of us at some level, in what German writer Goethe calls holy longing, we seek meaning and purpose by virtue of pursuing a deeper quest. As our new member liturgy states, as you're well aware, the Christian journey is a pilgrimage as well as an adventure. Please know that you are not alone in traveling it, and that you will be strengthened and guided by the company of this faithful congregation. The journey will entail more than can be summarized, but when we travel with hearts devoted and attention focused above, we will experience magic along the way. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please stand in body or spirit as we together affirm our faith. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among people, to make music from the heart. Please be seated. Buenos días desde Dios. Good morning. A warm word of welcome to you all on this Epiphany of our Lord Sunday. We would especially like to welcome any guests or visitors we may have among us this morning. Our custom is if you're a guest or visitor, we'd invite you to stand and tell us your name. Do we have any with us this morning? And I'm asking Henrietta Van Manen to please stand. Henrietta periodically lives in Albuquerque, volunteers have been all in his worship for years at this congregation. We are glad to have you back with us for about a month. Are there any other bold souls this morning? All right, let's move on. Just a few brief announcements this morning. The beautiful flowers to my right and to my left are given by Bev and Remy Molo in honor of their son TJ's birthday. A special thank you to Elizabeth Korber Glenn, to Deb Eisenhower, and for Bev Chavez for stepping in for Carmen when she is gone.
It takes 3 of us.
If for any reason, perhaps due to the enchilada dinner, you brought a roaster to the church, it is roasting to get home. So if you want to pick it up in the back, you are invited by the hospitality committee to do so. Thank you to David Lopez, Romaine Romero, and Beverly Chavez for changing light bulbs and doing cleaning yesterday for the congregational workday.
Ask David what he learned yesterday.
What did you learn yesterday, David?
I'm a one-man wrecking crew.
We already knew that.
He learned that you don't have to climb the ladder, that there is actually a pole that hits the light bulb out. So he learned that after you put the ladder up.
One other brief announcement that is not in your bulletin is that the Stewardship Committee will be meeting on Tuesday. Is anyone here from the Stewardship Committee? Yeah, is it Tuesday? Okay, Tuesday at 1 p.m. And what we'll actually be doing is we'll have final crunch numbers from last year, and we'll be putting together a budget for 2020 using 2020 Vision. So if you haven't pledged already and you want to, there are pledge cards on the back table, and there's some in the fellowship hall, and that information could be used for that Tuesday meeting. Also, for those who like to get ahead with per capita this year, I have had it confirmed that it is $35. Yes?
Your offering envelopes, so the requested offering envelopes, those are designated in fellowship hall
Already?
already.
For those who like to use the offering envelopes, if you requested them, they should be now ready in the fellowship hall waiting for you, so feel free to grab them. Now, brothers and sisters, as we consider bringing gifts to the manger scene, let us prepare to give the gifts that we want to share for the work of the good news of God's incarnational kingdom. Dios celestial, te damos gracias por todo lo que nos des en esta vida. Te pedimos que aceptes nuestros regalos, nuestros dones, todo nuestro ser, que dedicamos a tu gloria. Te pedimos que bendigas a todo esto para que sea usado para tu gloria, para compartir tu luz. Amén.
Queridos hermanos y hermanas, God invites all who would humbly come to this feast to come to this feast. El Señor sea con ustedes. Eleven sus corazones. Demos gracias al Señor nuestro Dios. Let us pray. It is truly right and our greatest joy to give you thanks and praise, God of majesty and splendor. By your power you created all that is, making a universe out of chaos and ruling over all things in love. Throughout the ages you called your people to love and to serve you, and to bear your light among nations. When we failed you, you did not fail us, and sent prophets to call us back to your ways. We praise you that in the fullness of time you revealed your love by sending your Son, Jesus, to be the light of the world. He came to heal our brokenness and to set before us the ways of justice and peace. Therefore we praise you, joining our voices with the angels and the archangels, and with all the faithful of every time and place, who forever sing to the glory of your name. Santo, Santo, Santo es el Señor Dios del universo.
Santo, Santo, Santo es el Señor Dios del universo.
Llenos están el cielo y la tierra de tu gloria.
Llenos están el cielo y la tierra de tu gloria.
Hosana en el cielo.
Hosana en el cielo.
Bendito el que viene en nombre del Señor.
Bendito el que viene en nombre del Señor.
You are holy, O God of majesty, and blessed is Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord. He was born to dwell among us, full of grace and truth. In him we have seen your glory. He lived for you, spoke your truth, and he showed your love. Lavished with gifts from the Magi, he gave his life for others. Baptized by John in the Jordan, he poured out his mercy for all. Turning water into wine at a wedding, he transformed sorrow into joy. In his death on the cross, he overcame death. Rising from the tomb, he raised us to eternal life and made with us a new covenant by water and spirit. Remembering your gracious acts, Jesus Christ, we take from your creation this bread and this cup, and joyfully celebrate his dying and rising as we await the day of his coming. With thanksgiving, we offer our very selves to you to be a living and holy sacrifice, dedicated to your service. Gracious God, pour out your Holy Spirit upon us and upon these gifts, your bread and wine, that the bread we break and the cup we bless may be the communion of the body and blood of Christ. By your Spirit, make us one with Christ, that we may be one with all who share this feast, united in ministry in every place. And this bread is Christ's body for us. Send us out to be the body of Christ in the world. Illumine our hearts, O God, with the radiance of Christ's presence, that our lives may show forth his love in this weary world. Send us to befriend the lost, to serve the poor, to reconcile our enemies, and to love our neighbors. Keep us faithful in your service until Christ comes in final victory. We shall feast with all your saints, the joy of your eternal realm. Through Christ, with Christ, in Christ, in the unity of the Holy Spirit, all glory and honor are yours, Almighty God, now and forever. Amen. Now let us join our voices together in the prayer that our Savior taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive prayed, took bread. After giving thanks, he broke it, saying, "This is my body, broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me." Asimismo, tomó la copa diciendo, "Esta es mi sangre, derramada por los pecados de ustedes. Bébenla en memoria mía." The good news is that every time we eat of this bread and we drink from this cup, we proclaim that Christ will come again. Elders and deacons, would you come and serve the people of God? Loving and gracious God, from east and west, from north and south, you have gathered us at your table, called us your beloved, fed us from your body, transformed us to be your body in the world, and fortified us by your Spirit, so that we may serve you and our neighbors with great joy. And all God's people said, Amen. Our closing hymn, We Three Kings of Orient are. It's in the red Glory to God hymnal, number 151.
hermanos y hermanas, que la gracia de nuestro Señor Jesucristo, que el amor abundante de Dios y que la unión del Espíritu Santo sean con todos nosotros hoy día y siempre. And all God's people said, Amen.